Have you ever woken up after 8 hours of sleep and still felt tired? Not in your body, but somewhere deeper. Like your mind is worn out, your spirit is low, and you can't quite explain why. This isn't laziness, and it's not just burnout. Psychology calls it emotional exhaustion, and it happens when your emotional output has quietly outpaced your emotional input for too long. Let's unpack the hidden psychology behind people who feel tired, even when they've done nothing. There's a certain kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. You wake up after 8 hours, but still feel heavy, not in your muscles, in your chest, in the space where your aliveness is supposed to live. It's not physical fatigue, it's something quieter, a deep ache in the background of your existence. A kind of soul tired that doesn't make itself obvious. It just lingers. People ask if you're okay, and you pause, not because you're hiding anything, but because you genuinely don't know how to answer. Nothing is dramatically wrong, and yet nothing feels meaningfully right. You smile, nod, and go through the motions, but underneath the surface, something feels misaligned, like you're drifting, like your life is moving, but you're no longer sure where to. This is the kind of tiredness people rarely talk about because it doesn't look like burnout or breakdown. It looks like functionality. It looks like I'm fine. But in reality, it's a slow leak of energy, a quiet depletion that builds over time. Not laziness, not weakness, but emotional survival. Psychologists have a word for this kind of tiredness: emotional exhaustion, a state where your emotional output has exceeded your emotional input for far too long. You've been giving energy, time, compassion, patience, and receiving almost nothing back in return. Maybe you've been holding space for others. Maybe you've been pushing through your own storms quietly. Or maybe you've just been functioning nonstop, performing normalcy, doing what needs to be done, until even joy feels like a language you once knew, but can't remember anymore. There's a biological side to this too. Under chronic stress, your brain starts adapting for survival. The reward systems, the parts that register joy, motivation, meaning, begin to dim. Dopamine doesn't land like it used to. Allostatic load, the accumulated wear and tear of stress, starts weighing on your nervous system, and slowly you stop reacting to good things. You stop anticipating pleasure. You stop feeling moved. This is known as anhedonia, the inability to feel joy even when joy is present. It's not that you've stopped caring, it's that your system has been running on empty for so long it no longer knows how to refuel. And then there's role fatigue, the psychological toll of performing who you think you're supposed to be. The version of you that shows up at work, smiling, the version that says, no worries, even when everything worries you. The version that answers, I'm good, because it's easier than explaining how much you're carrying. Somewhere in all this, you lose access to your own emotional center. So you become a collection of responses instead of a fully present self, especially if you grew up as the peacemaker, the helper, the one who stayed calm so others could fall apart. Your nervous system is trained to stay alert. Even in stillness, it doesn't rest. It scans, it braces, it carries what no one else sees. And that kind of invisible effort, it's exhausting in a way that doesn't show up on calendars or health apps. Because the truth is, you're not tired because you're doing nothing. You're tired because you've done everything for everyone for far too long. When this exhaustion builds up over months, years, and even decades, it starts to reshape how you experience reality. The world loses color, music doesn't hit the same, conversations feel flat. You go through your day, wake up, scroll, work, nod, reply, but it all feels muted, like you're living life through frosted glass. This is what some call the muted life effect, where joy, motivation, connection, all of it feels distant. And slowly you start pulling away, not out of rejection, but out of protection. Even texting someone back can feel like lifting a mountain. Even watching a movie feels like too much stimulation. This isn't about being antisocial. It's about your nervous system no longer having the capacity for more noise. So you isolate, you cancel, you stay silent, not because you want to disappear, but because disappearing feels quieter than disappointing people with your energy. And then comes the meaning fatigue. You start asking questions like, what's the point? Why am I doing any of this? Why does life feel like survival on repeat? Wake, function, perform, sleep. Again, these aren't signs of failure, they're signs of misalignment. Your soul is trying to tell you something's missing, something real, something nourishing. Maybe it's purpose. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's just rest, the kind you never learned how to give yourself. But here's the part most people miss. This kind of exhaustion isn't weakness, it's awakening. When your spirit gets this tired, it means something is trying to change. Exhaustion is data. It's your subconscious waving a red flag that says, this life you're living, it's costing more than it's giving. You're not lazy. You're misaligned. You were taught how to work, how to produce, how to endure, but you were never taught how to pause, how to grieve, how to be still without guilt. And this is where many people reach the breaking point, the moment when they stop pushing, not because they've given up, but because they're finally ready to listen. Listen to the parts of themselves they've neglected, to the needs they've buried, to the voice inside whispering, I can't keep doing this. That voice isn't dramatic, it's honest, and it's the beginning of realignment. As Viktor Frankl once said, humans can endure almost any how if they have a why. When people start asking, what's the point? That question is not hopeless. It's sacred. It means the soul is beginning to demand meaning, because meaning is the medicine that brings you back. Not quickly, not loudly, but slowly. Like the first sunrise after a long night. And perhaps most beautifully, the people who've known this kind of soul tiredness often become the gentlest souls you'll ever meet. They understand pain without words. They don't rush you. They listen with eyes instead of just ears, because they've lived in the silence too, and they know how much it hurts when no one notices. This is the paradox of deep exhaustion. It breaks you open, but it also builds your depth. So what now? What do you do when you're tired of life itself? First, you honor that tiredness. You stop calling it laziness. You stop shaming yourself for needing rest. You stop measuring your worth by how much you can endure. You start by listening to what the exhaustion is trying to say. Maybe it's saying you need a new kind of rhythm, one that includes stillness. Maybe it's telling you that your life needs pruning. Fewer roles, fewer performances, fewer shoulds. Maybe it's reminding you that peace doesn't come from doing more, but from needing less. The truth is, you don't need to earn rest. You deserve it simply because you exist. You are not a machine. You are not a project. You are a living being whose worth was never supposed to be measured in productivity. And yes, the world won't always give you permission to pause, so you must learn to give it to yourself. Even if that pause is just 5 minutes of silence, even if it's just saying no when you used to say yes, even if it's just whispering, I matter, on a day when nothing feels meaningful. Because little by little, your energy returns, not in a burst, but in waves. The kind of healing that feels like remembering what it's like to feel joy. to feel full, to feel like yourself again. And when that happens, you don't just recover, you transform. You move through the world differently, with softness, with clarity, with strength that no longer needs to prove itself because you've been to the edge of burnout and come back with wisdom. And that kind of strength, that's the kind that lasts. Do you ever feel tired in a way that sleep can't touch? Do you ever feel like you're functioning but not really living? Does life sometimes feel heavier than anyone realizes? If this story resonated, remember to like the video, subscribe, press the bell icon, and share it with someone who might need it. Our other stories should be appearing on your screen now, Psyche. Watch them next, and I'll see you tomorrow at the same time with a brand new video.